title of this video is Thesis. Now the thesis, as mentioned in the previous video, is that sentence, or the last couple of sentences, but generally just one sentence, at the end of the first paragraph in your introduction. It gives you the direction. Because it's debatable, it could turn one way or the other, based on the evidence that you're putting forward. It's the last sentence in the first paragraph. The hook draws people in at the start, puts something interesting out there. It's quite general, maybe historical, maybe context, but then the funnel starts to narrow down, narrower, until it hits the thesis. You want to have your reader on the hook by that stage. Everything in that first paragraph drives the reader down through the funnel towards that last sentence, down towards your claim for the paper. It answers a question and asserts your conclusions about a subject. It signals what the rest of the writing of the paper will do. It can be debatable, take on a subject which reasonable people could disagree about. It's got to be significant. You can't be doing work that's insignificant in the engineering academic space, obviously. It's got to be very clear, deals with a subject that fits the particular form of writing, maybe different in engineering academic writing from other writing, obviously, but it's always at the end of the first paragraph. It draws them in. Let's take the thesis apart a little bit and look at what's inside it. So we're going to do that by looking at some bad examples, and then we're going to look at some actual examples of writing with very clear theses at the end of that first paragraph. Factors of bad theses, examples of bad theses, no announcements. This paper says this. I will give 4 reasons why. Okay? Don't announce it, just say it. It's about a topic, it's about a focus. What are you talking about? Where's the issue? No facts, saving money is important. Well, everybody knows that. No popular opinions, people should stop smoking. No pronouns, don't talk about yourself. It should have one part. It should have one clear component. Let's look at some examples. Here's an essay entitled The Crisis of American Masculinity. I'll give you a few seconds to read it. Have a think about what the topic is, what the focus is, and how this paragraph is driving you towards a conclusion. I'll give you 30 seconds. Let's have a look at the way that this works. Note the relationship between the topic, American masculinity. Clear in the title, it's clear in that last sentence. The focus in the title, the crisis. The focus in the last sentence, something has gone badly wrong. It's essentially a restating of the title. The preceding sentences all drive towards that. It gives examples, it talks about themes, it talks about film, it talks about the evolution of masculine identity, but it all leads towards that one point. It's a very clear, straightforward opening. You're left with absolutely no doubt about what the essay is about. This paragraph in a classical essay has lots of pointers to the other paragraphs that you'd expect to find in the essay. You might expect a paragraph about frontiersmen, a paragraph about heroes of particular authors, themes in movies, and evidence which talks about masculinity. Maybe some facts, maybe some statistics, depending on the size of the essay. If this is just a short 5-paragraph essay, this paragraph would be a great way to start. 3 paragraphs which relate to the central sections of this paragraph, very clearly outlined, and then a concluding paragraph which restates the main points. It's an essay worth having a read of. It's always good to read good writing. So a thesis. What are the essential components of this hook that is going to pull people in through the first paragraph? Well, there are good ones and bad ones. A good one, as I've pointed out, makes a debatable claim. It demands further discussion. It may say something that's a little bit controversial, something that people would look at and say, what makes you think that? It has one main idea. It's very specific, it's very narrow, it's sharp. This is the sharp end of the hook. If the title hasn't brought you in on an academic paper, if the abstract hasn't really pulled you in, this is your last chance that you've got, because no one's going to read more than 2 paragraphs, the abstract and the first paragraph. If they don't like what they see by then, they're out. I can guarantee it. Needs to be concise, needs to fit together compactly, needs to be contentious, to be debatable. Well, a weak thesis makes no claim. Doesn't grab any attention, might say multiple things. Could be vague, could be broad. It's not a hook. It's not going to draw anyone in. You'd read that and go, no, nothing to see here. Essentially, it has to answer the question, what is this paper about? Then the rest of the intro provides the why. So let's have a look at how you get there from a concept through to something that actually looks like a strong thesis. So say you wanted to write a paper about sugar consumption, and this example's from Indiana University, sugar consumption. You then want to get a little bit more specific, reducing sugar consumption by school children. Well, that's definitely more interesting than sugar consumption. School children, you want to protect them. So yes, that's more interesting rather than sugar consumption by the population at large. Well, who's going to do it? Who should do what? So maybe we can reduce sugar consumption by actually applying a few more controls to the sorts of food that students have access to. Okay, that's a little bit more precise again. And then let's ramp up the credibility. Experts estimate something. Bring in a factoid and then put it all together. Half of American school children consume 9 times the recommended daily allowance of sugar. So schools should be required to replace the beverages in soda machines with healthy alternatives. Controversial. People who are big soft drink fans would kick up a stink about this, potentially. It's not too bad. But it's certainly much stronger as a hook than where you started out about reducing sugar consumption by school children, which is too broad, too vague. A thesis has to answer a question. What is the question? Should we be replacing beverages in school soda machines or something like that?